Welcome to episode 4 of Grip It and Rip It, where we have hot marketing takes just for you from the hottest take machine in the business, me, Colin Slattery, founder of Tycoon Digital, here with Brian Lackey, our head of marketing at Tycoon, and we're gonna talk. We're going to talk an unsexy topic here today, and that is CRO and all of the shit that you are not doing to make more money for your brand.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to talk about CRO. It's something that I actually like a lot and I've been really interested in over the last several years. And I think it's something a lot of agencies and brands neglect. So I think there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great topic. And yeah, I mean, everyone's focused on the front end, right? They're focused on the media buying, the creative, and then they don't think about sending the traffic to a dog shit landing page.
So the question is, why do you think it gets overlooked so often?
Well, it's not gaudy, right? It's kind of boring. It is like web development, sort of, right? Or a lot of it is web development related, which generally not that sexy. And, it doesn't, there's not going to be any crazy screenshots, right? There's no account screenshots of like great CRO work. It's just like, okay, your conversion rate's higher, right? And so it doesn't really lend itself, I think, right, to looking fun and sexy. And so, it's something people just forget.
And I think it gets overlooked also because I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what CRO actually is. I think there's a perception for a lot of people that it's changing the button from blue to green and then seeing if that increases the conversion rate by some microscopic amount. But there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just changing the color on a button, unless you're Amazon, in which case you have the scale to be able to do that. But it's layout of your pages, it's your cart, it's anything that is going to improve revenue per session generally, which is one of the main metrics that I think we look at and people should be looking at. Right? It's not just improving your conversion rate. It's really how much money you're getting for each visitor on your website, how you're being able to maximize it. AOV, boosting AOV is part of CRO too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of brands probably have not seen the power of CRO when done correctly, and that may be part of the reason why they're not super interested in it. When you're running a successful CRO program and you're making those improvements, whether you want to look at revenue per session or AOV or conversion rate, and you see that they start to compound over time, that's the part when it becomes really powerful. But I think a lot of brands and media buyers don't think about it as a continuous process. I think they kind of view it as like a one-off thing, whether that's changing the button color or changing something else. There's not really an improvement. They might be looking at the wrong metrics, and that may be part of the reason why it's not as sexy as it should be.
Yeah. And like I said, the revenue per session, I think, is the gold standard metric for running these tests. And there's lots of ways that you can impact it. And it does compound over time, right? So let's say you have $1 per session is like your revenue per session, and you launch a different type of landing page. You do a listicle landing page instead of the PDP that you're sending them to. And now you have like $1.30 in revenue per session. Okay, well, that's a 30% jump. And then you improve your cart experience after that listicle, and the revenue per session on that page goes from $1.30 to $1.45. And then you run another test where you change the order of the listicle or something like that. And it's like, okay, now it's $1.52, right? And you're able to layer on these changes, and you're going to get compounding results. And that opens up a lot of opportunities to do more things on media buying. It opens up greater scale, right? Because you can bid more aggressively because the value you're getting per click is higher. And ultimately, that is the comparison that you want to be looking at, right? Is like, how much are you paying for a click? And then how much are you getting back in revenue against that click? And making sure that, if you can get back more per click, you can pay more per click, which means you can scale more aggressively.
It's crazy how so much money is spent on getting those clicks, and then what happens afterwards is completely neglected. And I think that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit for a lot of brands who want to start doing CRO. And when you start doing those initial tests, because of the law of diminishing returns, if you're doing a ton of tests over time, you're going to be getting less out of them. But the first few have potential to provide massive lifts. And it's funny because of the mismatch between, like, say, ad creative on Facebook, where so much money is being spent for such a small increase in performance, and then on CRO, for like the beginning especially, the lift can be so massive with such a small amount of investment. That mismatch is really crazy sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. People are spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on new creative and creators and getting content, and then they're sending them to a janky ass PDP that hasn't been updated in 4 years and has tons of SaaS bloat. And I think the important thing to think about, and well, there's lots of important things to think about, but the important thing to think about is that the changes that you make from a CRO standpoint are not isolated to that page, right? Like, they impact your funnel. So it's one of the variables in the equation that impacts your performance. And if you're improving your revenue per session, like, that again impacts the performance of your ads. Like, your ROAS goes up, right? Your AMER goes up. Like, it impacts your whole funnel. It increases the scale that you can run your ads at, right? If you need a 2x in platform and you improve your revenue per session because you updated a landing page, like, now you can spend more money because you're going to be able to spend more money at that 2x, right? And it's a very simple equation, and people don't think about that.
Yeah, and I think it's also kind of part of a bigger shift that's happening, where everything needs to be more integrated and thought about more in terms of all these different parts need to be connected and work together, and to think about the bigger picture. And the reason is because the competition is increasing, the CPMs are rising. People who don't adapt and look at digital advertising with this kind of approach end up getting crushed. If you're like, just looking at the ad creative, just refreshing the ad creative, if you're not looking at CRO or thinking about incrementality or actually like doing your numbers and seeing how those translate to what needs to happen in platform, it seems like before you could run a business just, putting some ads at Facebook and not looking at everything more holistically. But now it seems like it's kind of no longer an option.
Yeah, it used to be fucking easy because Meta was really, 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 really cheap. And now it's not that easy. And that means you can't be a shitter and succeed, right? You actually have to have some degree of intelligence and savviness in order to grow and scale. So, yeah, it's harder. But the benefit to it being harder is that fewer people can do it. And if you are good, you can outcompete your competition and end up winning harder. So, yeah, the days of a shitty, like, static ad generating a 5x ROAS are long since over, and they aren't coming back.
Yeah, the bar is getting raised, and when that happens, there's a lot of losers. The losers are the ones who don't adapt and don't rise to the occasion.
The losers are the people who aren't listening to this fucking podcast.
Yeah, that's true. But the winners are us, who are adapting and staying ahead of the curve. And I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but I think that the future looks like something where the good agencies are going to take more and more of the pie because the value that good agencies can deliver, it will become, like the delta is just going to keep increasing between the good agency doing everything you're supposed to do, looking at the whole picture, doing all this other stuff, versus, as you said, the shitters who, make a picture in Canva, throw it on Facebook, and somehow they made a living doing that for a while, but I think those days are about over now.
So thank you, Stan.
Yeah, you need to be an absolute savage in order to be successful. And you can't just be good at one thing. You have to be great at all the things, right? And that's just how it is. And so, yeah, like, good is not good enough. Like, and you can't be like great in one area and then bad in every other area, which you used to be able to, right? Now you need to be like A-level quality across the board and not just like A+ in one area and F's everywhere else. Like, that's not going to cut it.
That was the T-shaped marketer, right? When that used to be a thing.
Ah, yes, the T-shaped marketer. That is not a thing anymore. It's a rectangular shaped marketer.
That's what.
It's deep expertise at every single thing.
If a brand or a media buyer is listening to this, hopefully, and they no longer want to be a shitter and they want to experiment with CRO, and they're wondering where to start, in what direction would you steer them? What would you recommend that they start out with?
Well, so it does vary by brand, but I think the first thing you should be doing is tracking revenue per session, right? I think looking at the metrics that matter, great place to start. And I think the best one to be looking at from a holistic basis is your revenue per session. And it's pretty easy to calculate. Revenue over sessions. Very easy. So that's the first thing that I would say. And then there's a lot of tests that you can run pretty easily. Like, go pay for Replo, spin up some landing pages. They have a lot of high-performing templates. Try a couple different variants, like try a listicle. Try, an advertorial type landing page. Just try some landing pages, and that's a great place to start from a structural standpoint. I think an easy win that we see a lot is making your font sizes bigger. That is a very easy win, especially if you have an older demographic. Like, increase your font size by, 20 or 30%, and you're going to see your revenue per session go up. Like, that's probably the easiest win that you could have. It'll take literally 10 seconds, and it could have a massive increase in revenue per session. So I think that's an easy win. And another easy win tends to be looking at your user experience on the pages that you send traffic to, right? Like, your traffic's probably mostly mobile. So load the page that you're sending traffic to on your phone, not connected to Wi-Fi. See what that experience is. Like, is your button below the fold? Like, that's less important than it used to be, or less important for a lot of brands and a lot of things that are offered, but it can still be relevant, right? So see what your actual experience is on a mobile device, on non-Wi-Fi, and I think you're going to get a ton of information from that. You should have Microsoft Clarity or Hotjar or one of those tools installed as well, so that you can see how users interact with your site and make changes based on that. Dead clicks, like people pressing back, like, you would be shocked at how fucking crazy it is the way people interact with your site. And that's good information to have, because it will allow you to make changes to improve the overall experience for people on the site. So you need to know what you're tracking. You need to be able to see what's happening, and you should be experiencing it yourself as well. This is another excellent CRO win. This is also something you should be doing on your ads too, but you can do it on your landing pages. And that is auto applying discount codes and offers. So you should not, and it's super easy on Shopify, but you should not make a customer type in BF30 or whatever in order to make a purchase. You can easily apply that to any of the buttons that you have and also to your ads as well. So it's an easy win and something that'll materially increase your conversion rates and likely your revenue per session as well.
I've got a good suggestion also, which is that, as we mentioned Microsoft Clarity before, so Microsoft Clarity is kind of like Hotjar, but it's free. So like a good thing for brands to try out, install it on the website. If you have FAQs, see if people are clicking on, one in particular, or maybe a couple or a few, and that people are just consistently going towards, and when in their purchase journey. And you should see, is that information not being explained clearly enough on the landing page that people are being sent to? If so, work that into the landing page, because you're just preemptively objection handling and you're removing friction. So that gives some good direction. And if you want to go a step further than that, you can also think about trying to find a review that touches on one or more of those points, so that you're preemptively objective handling while also reinforcing social proof. So being really strategic with the reviews that you have, because the real estate on the landing page is super valuable.
So you make a great point about reviews and like the value of landing page real estate. And it is important to think about how the further down you go the page, the fewer people are going to see it. And that is also something that I guess people don't really think about, is if you have important points and they're buried halfway down the page, a lot of people are never going to see them. So if it's important and it's relevant, move it up the page, or move it up the page in a test and see if it improves performance and scroll depth and things like that.
Yeah. The top of the page is definitely Boardwalk in terms of the value, and the further you go down, the less valuable it is, until Atlantic Avenue, right? I think that's like the first one in Monopoly.
No, Atlantic Avenue is a yellow one. It's still pretty valuable. The cheap one is like Ventnor. I think that's a light blue. That's not the Baltic. I think Baltic is one of the purple ones. Yeah.
Yeah, like Baltic is at the bottom. Like the value of the information, like, and you can see this with Microsoft Clarity, the drop off as people go down the page. So when you have something higher up, 190, 80% of people are seeing it. And then as you go down further, the percent starts dropping, sometimes precipitously. It depends on the quality of the traffic, depends on the landing page, depends on how engaging it is, depends on how things are structured, depends on where the buy box is, etc. But you need to think about the hierarchy of information and structure things in a way where the most important things, and the things that probably will ideally keep people on the page the longest, are seen higher up, seen by more people, and that kind of gets more people further through the process of consuming the information on the page.
Absolutely. And it is Mediterranean and Baltic. Those are the two cheapest properties, which in my Monopoly experience, I always love those cheap properties on that first round go, and then I hoover up that initial round of money. So
yeah, bottom of the page.
Talking Monopoly strategy here.
Bottom of the page are the, I mean, I don't want to say it's worthless, but it less valuable. And and also another way to think about it is, like, if people are reaching the bottom of the page, those are people who are probably a little bit further along in the buying process, just, than someone who goes down a little bit and bounces. If someone actually is willing to go through the entire page, that person is probably going to be more receptive to a different kind of information if they've actually made it that far. So I guess it's not really fair to say it's like the shitty Monopoly Square, versus the top. That is kind of true just in terms of total visibility. But the cohort of people who make it that far are typically looking for slightly different kind of information than people who, just kind of bounce at the top.
Yeah, I mean, the people who scroll all the way down your landing pages, they have a name. They're called buyers. Like, if anyone is willing to read all the content that you're producing, it's the same with creative, right? The people who watch 45 seconds of your video, those people are buyers. That's what they're called. So having all of that reinforcing information is definitely helpful, but you also don't want to be burying the lead.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's typically why FAQs tend to be at the bottom of the page if you have them on a landing page, because at that point they're it's just like it's like the final kind of level of objection handling. It's, you're not really selling the product specifically, you're kind of just addressing their concerns as far as FAQs go typically.
Absolutely. That's it for episode 4 of Grip It and Rip It, working title. But appreciate you guys tuning in, and if you have any questions, hit the link below.